Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Birmingham. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Today we enter week 2 of our special series on the spiritual practices of Leonardo da Vinci. To all who are here this morning, welcome home.
If you would like to participate or comment on our service, especially during our sharings of joys and sorrows, please use the chat feature in YouTube. We are continuing our spiritual practice inspired by Leonardo da Vinci this week. It's not too late to participate. Please contact the church office to ensure you received your materials. Today, after service, Reverend Julie will offer a conversation for those who are interested in joining our church or learning more about our community. Please visit the Zoom coffee hour. The link is below this video, and you will be sorted into a breakout room. Please check out this morning's announcements. The prelude prepares us for worship. For every time we make a mistake and we decide to start again, we light this chalice. For every time we are lonely and we let someone to be our friend, we light this chalice. For every time we are disappointed and we choose to hope, we light this chalice.
That we are in the The will to reach it makes us free.
Good morning. Our church is supported by those who call our church home and by those who support the efforts of our church to change our world for the better. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflect UU values to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systemic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Alabama Arise, a statewide nonprofit, nonpartisan coalition of congregations, organizations, and individuals united in their belief that people in poverty are suffering because of state policy decisions. Through Arise, groups and individuals join together to promote policies to improve the lives of Alabamians with low incomes. Arise provides a structure in which Alabamians can engage in public debates to promote the common good. During this time of social distancing and online worship, please know that church expenses continue. Therefore, we very much appreciate your continuing to pay your pledge or offer your donation by either mailing a check to the church office or using PayPal or Venmo. Our Venmo account is at UUCBHAM. Please designate whether your offering is for UUCB or Alabama Arise. Thank you for your generous support of our church and our Share the Plate recipient. May we give in love and in hope.
As we enter our meditative time this morning, I invite you to reflect and consider what is on your heart today, using the chat feature in YouTube, by sharing it aloud, or by speaking it on your heart. Please give voice to what is on your mind today. In the spirit of our Da Vincian spiritual practices, I share this morning a spoken meditation written by interfaith minister Laura Mancuso, who has written a series of affirmations. Perhaps they will inspire your door hanger exercise from our spiritual practices box this week. Please hear this meditation. I take care of myself first, because I am deserving of exquisite care. I take care of myself to maintain the capacity to help others. I move and stretch my body every day. I spend time in nature, attuning my senses to the earth's wisdom. I ration my daily exposure to the news. I identify and access credible sources of information. I protect myself from becoming overwhelmed by information about the pandemic. I pace myself. I sit with the reality of uncertainty and impermanence and allow it to temper my desire for control. I listen without judgment to others' reactions, which may be different than mine. I forgive myself and others when stress brings out our shadow selves. I feel fear fully when I am fearful. I experience sadness fully when I am sad. I allow anger fully when I am angry. I relish joy fully when I am joyful. I seek out healthy pleasures and indulge in them without guilt. I remind myself that feelings are transient states that move through me. They do not last, and they do not define me, nor do my thoughts. I balance my drive for self-improvement with compassionate acceptance of myself as I am right now. I initiate contact with loved ones to let them know I hold them in my heart. I seek out with increased sensitivity those who are most vulnerable. If possible, I share my resources with those who need help to survive. When possible, I move away from people, situations, and experiences that do not serve my highest good. I strengthen my connection to my sources of spiritual strength so that I continue to be replenished. I acknowledge the nearness of death as a key motivator for living a full life. I pray for the suffering of all beings to cease. I grieve my losses and celebrate my successes. I remain open to new ways of being, surprising sources of joy, and unanticipated discoveries every day. As you hear these affirmations this morning, may you consider those that you may need to put on repeat for your own good. And we say together, Amen and blessed be.
Good morning. Will the children please come forward? This week, we are learning from ourselves. And one way that we learn from ourselves is to learn from our mistakes. Now, many times when we fail at something, our first instinct to maybe give up or to get angry or upset. And this can sometimes be called a fixed mindset. Well, with a fixed mindset, you get stuck in the idea that you may have made a mistake instead of the idea of learning from your mistakes and yourself. Now, I don't know about you, but I have never met a person who has not made a mistake. And in fact, most of us make many mistakes every day. Making mistakes is a part of being human. And although mistakes may be unavoidable, how we deal with them is not. We get to decide if we are going to let a mistake get us upset or angry or help us learn. Practice and grit, which is just the idea of trying over and over again, actually helps your brain to grow. Now, I'm sure many of you have hobbies that you love, like playing video games, or maybe painting or drawing, singing or dancing. Maybe you play an instrument. And I'm sure when you started out, you probably weren't that good. But you practiced and you made mistakes and you learned from them and you improved. And I bet you didn't even know you were growing your brain. Now, I know that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, something can seem impossible. And I want to teach you a little trick that can help you when you feel like that. I want you to remember one little word, the word yet. Whenever you find yourself saying things like, I can't do that, or I don't know that, or I don't understand it, I want you to add the word yet. So instead of saying, I can't do that, you're going to say, I can't do that yet, or I don't know that yet. Adding yet reminds you to keep trying and to not give up. Now, even adding yet doesn't always help, because sometimes things can get very frustrating. So in those times, I want you to remember three people. The first person I want you to remember who showed true grit and growth mindset would be Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison made over 10,000 prototypes of the light bulb before he got it right. We'd all be in the dark if he didn't have grit. And Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job because he lacked imagination and new ideas. Just think of all the movies and fun things that we wouldn't have if Walt Disney did not have grit. And last, I want you to remember Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss's first book was rejected 27 times. There'd be no Cat in the Hat, no green eggs and ham, and no walk it in my pocket. So remember that no matter what, we can always learn from ourselves and our mistakes. Please join me in singing our song. Thank you.
One, each person is worthwhile. Two, be kind in all you do. Three, we help each other learn. Four, and search for what is true. Five, all people get a vote. Six, build a just and peaceful world. Seven, we take care of the earth. That will bring us back to me and you too.
Our reading this morning is by Reverend Michael Schuler. Let us pause now to look inward, exploring, if we dare, the secret places where motives are made and intentions live. Beneath appearances, what kind of person are we? Is the inner self congruent with one that rejoices with friends, assists the infirm, comforts the crying child? No. As we take inventory and remember mistakes we have made, impure thoughts we have had, schemes that we have hatched, we know that all is not right within. We are born to inconsistency, not purity, and consciousness is a dubious guide that leads us stumbling along the path of virtue. We are fallen, all self-condemned. For time after time we have succumbed to the temptation and chosen a lesser good, portraying the truth of ourselves that etched indelibly on our essential being. This, then, is our state and our inescapable humanness. Let us recognize and not deny our imperfections, forgive and not condemn ourselves. May growing awareness of our mixed motives and morals increase our humility and make possible lives of greater sensitivity, sincerity, and serenity. Amen.
Life in my house is rife with testing knowledge through experience, naming different instruments, exploring the range of volume in the human voice, learning to play team sports as an individual during a pandemic, and repeating new words every day. And that only describes my 2-year-old, who just yesterday wanted to test what would happen if he threw his vanilla milkshake across the room. He is constantly testing limits. And many of our Unitarian Universalist families understand this need for children to explore, test, and experience all that there is in life. We encourage our children to approach the world as little scientists, analyzing, exploring, and testing the world as they grow to understand it. But appreciating the innate curiosity and hypothesizing that children do is a fairly recent development in human history, and we still don't always manage this appreciation in the best way. Throughout recent history, we in the dominant culture have forced children to work, required education to be based on rote memorization, and encouraged children to be seen but not heard. Thankfully, throughout these same moments in history, some people have recognized the importance of nurturing a child's innate interests and skills, including our indigenous neighbors and our brilliant educators. Were you allowed to explore as a child? Last week, we spoke about Leonardo da Vinci's insatiable curiosity, and we exercised our curiosity with our specially curated Da Vinci boxes. This week, we focus on dimostrazione, a commitment to test knowledge through experience, persistence, and a willingness to learn from mistakes. Our exercises this week include examining some of our beliefs for their root source, creating affirmations to channel that persistence that we need to make it through each day, and reflections on how mistakes were discussed in your childhood. I hope you'll choose one for this week and be sure to pick up a Da Vinci box from the church if you haven't had a chance yet. Leonardo da Vinci was raised during a time when the Catholic Church had complete control over Italy and so many other regions, dictating the beliefs of its adherents, engaging in wars to conquer other peoples, and taxing its people with morally repulsive guilt. Schools and churches taught children dogma disguised as truth. Da Vinci, in many ways, lucked out by being born out of wedlock. He was not beholden to the same expectations as a legitimate heir to his father's business, and his father was supportive of his art and his innate curiosity. Da Vinci was committed to testing knowledge through his experience, a revolutionary idea in a world with such suffocating restrictions. For the same reason, the church did not want its believers to read the scriptures for themselves. The church had a process in place for the rebels approved by God, like Joan of Arc, who died only 2 decades before Leonardo's birth. Experiences were only considered legitimate if they verified the teachings of the church. Leonardo thought differently. He knew from the beginning of his life that he was different and that was something to celebrate. He appreciated that the experience of life is different for each person, and that experience validates the individual even within part of a group. We in the Unitarian Universalist Church value experience as a valid path to spirituality, recognizing that there are many paths to wholeness and sacredness. Leonardo would have appreciated our 4th Unitarian Universalist principle that we as Unitarian Universalists affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. He would have also liked our first source, which informs our principles, which states that we as UUs affirm and promote direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. As Leonardo theorized and disproved worldviews of his day, he said, "Many will think they can with reason blame me, alleging that my proofs are contrary to the authority of certain men held in great reverence by their inexperienced justments, not considering that my works are the issue of simple and plain experience, which is the true mistress." Leonardo knew that the best part of the discovery was learning something on your own, even if mistakes are made as part of the process. Many years ago, I was sitting at my desk working late at night when a job offer came through my email that I couldn't resist. I wanted to be able to read over the terms of the position at home, and so I printed the document, packed up my supplies, and went home. The next morning, I arrived to find the office assistant scowling and my boss demanding to see me. I could not understand their demeanor. I went to my cubbyhole to find one sheet of paper, my printed acceptance to the new position. I can remember the embarrassment of that moment like it was yesterday. How my excitement of a new possibility made a fractional error that the perfectionism in me still likes to remind me of every now and then. I have to remind myself that it was an honest mistake, that it could have been so much more scandalous, and both of the people who were there are now deceased. So there is literally no point in me spending my mental energy on rehashing that scene. What mistakes in your life do you cling to? Were you taught to take risks? How were you, as a child, taught about mistakes? May this week's exercises be a lesson in releasing burdens, letting those go, and moving forward. Leonardo da Vinci was comfortable with taking risks, making mistakes, and learning from his errors. Leonardo's focus was not on perfection or even on practicality. His focus was on exploration and wonder. One of his biggest mistakes was this painting. Renowned around the world for its geometric designs, color patterns, and larger-than-life emotions. But to create the Last Supper, he developed a new painting technique using oil-based paints on a base applied to the wall, as opposed to the usual plaster painting. Over the years, this has proved challenging to the curators of this painting as the base continually tries to separate from the wall. And yet his mistake is one of the modern marvels in our world, full of mystery, even in its poor execution. Always one to try something new, on another occasion, Leonardo was invited to be the head chef for an event held by Ludovico Sforza. As Michael Gelb tells it, Leonardo sculpted a grand plan for each of the dishes to be meticulously sculpted for each of the 200 guests. He built a more powerful stove to make the meal more efficient, and a complex system of mechanical conveyor belts to move the plates around the kitchen, and even installed a sprinkler system in case of a fire. Murphy's Law happened in that kitchen that day, for everything that could go wrong went wrong. Everything didn't work as well as hoped. There was a fire, but the sprinkler system was executed perfectly. Some scholars believe that occasionally Leonardo even intentionally made mistakes to promote his values in the world. He drew specifications for a tank where soldiers moved the tank by rotating the tires from within. But according to his specifications, the front and back tires would go in opposite directions. It would not be very productive. He was also asked to draw up the instructions to reroute the Arno River, to deprive the city of Pisa from fresh water and the all-essential shipping port. Florence and Pisa were at odds. But his schematics were so complicated and so expensive and so time-intensive that the plan was eventually abandoned. These may have been intentional errors to prevent him from being a part of conflicts in his region. Leonardo made mistakes to his own advantage. While watching the hit movie Zootopia for the millionth time this week, I became fascinated with how movies and media depict mistake making. For those of you who haven't seen this brilliant film, go watch it. But here's a summary. The protagonist makes a gigantic mistake during the climax of the movie. She pushes hasty generalizations about other animals for their incivility and declares that they have no control over their savage natural instincts. Her guilt and her error consumes her. She eventually realizes her stereotypes of others are outdated, and while still appreciating how her own unique blend of experiences leads to her success, she recognizes also that she has to account for and appreciate the unique experiences of others in order to save the day. Zootopia's theme song summarizes risk-taking, mistake-making, and moving on. I messed up tonight. I lost another fight. Lost to myself, but I'll just start again. I keep falling down. I keep on hitting the ground, but I always get up now to see what's next. Birds don't just fly. They fall down and get up. Nobody learns without getting it wrong. Look how far you've come. You filled your heart with love. Baby, you've done enough. Take a deep breath. Don't beat yourself up. No need to run so fast. Sometimes we come last, but we did our best. I won't give up. No, I won't give in until I reach the end, and then I'll start again. No, I won't leave. I want to try everything. I want to try even though I could fail. I won't give up. I keep on making those new mistakes, and I'll keep on making them every day. Our culture is seeped in calls for perfectionism, sainthood, and unnatural expectations of us from childhood. Leonardo's challenge to us is exemplified in his life, which is to explore the world for ourselves, to have the courage to disagree, to learn from our little mistakes and let them go. Our big mistakes perhaps may take a bit more practice, and some mistakes we have to consciously work to not repeat every day. Appreciate your mistakes today, for they make you who you are. Explore the world with the curiosity of Da Vinci and analyze how your beliefs and opinions are shaped by your experiences. May we challenge ourselves this week to be risk takers and mistake makers, reflecting on lessons learned and releasing our guilt and shame. May we feel validated in our experiences and realize our perspective is uniquely ours, while calling ourselves into community to learn about the experiences of others. May we have the courage to try something new, even if it's a new route to work, a new TV show, or a new takeout menu. All of our experiences make us who we are. May you be held in the heart of community until we are joyfully reunited in person. Amen, and blessed be.
hearts and minds rejoice in wonders daily shown, in faith and joy and love that binds. We celebrate with singing hearts the loveliness of sky and earth, the inspiration of the arts, the miracle of every birth. Life's music and its poetry surround and bless us through our days. For these we sing in harmony, together giving thanks and praise.
When the candle dims, the wax almost spent, the light turns amber like a sunset. Still it provides light, still it provides heat, still it can kindle new flame, and pass its glow on and contribute to new illumination. When sunsets turn to new days, when seasons transform all, when the candle dims, all is not lost. Hope continues, uncertain and true, like candlelight ready to spark again.